Okay, hello guys, and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk from Temy, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today we've got with us Karim Ben-Jaafar. Karim, did I say the name correctly there?
You got it right on the first try. Congratulations.
Boom. Karim, what I want to do just before we start, so president at Beadworks Solutions, just give me a little bit of clarification here, because when I was researching you, I saw CRO, CGO, COO. What is your position at Beadworks Solutions? So president, and specifically what?
Okay, so I typically try to grab three English letters, put them together to make up a title. I had an FBI, CIA, that didn't work for me. Apparently, other organizations. But no, so actually, just to update you a little bit, so Beadworks 2 years ago was bought by this amazing company called Quadient. So we're now officially Quadient AP. It's a large acquisition, especially for the Canadian or the Vancouver startup scene. So we're officially integrated into our parent organization. At the time, I was the president of the company and the CRO, and also doubling as CEO. So all these, stuff aside, just simply meant I ran the internal operations of the company along with our founder, Catherine Dahl, who was our CEO. So she was more product. She was a product-led CEO. So she really worked on the product and was market facing. So and then I was internal facing. And also, as a CRO, I ran sales, so marketing, sales, customer success, you name it. So we're a good combo. She was amazing on the product, and I was mediocre to below average on everything else.
I actually saw this video where you're talking about the integration, because quite a funny video on YouTube, 7 minutes long, where you do how to word this properly. You delay the news for quite some time, picking up your water, you pick up your phone, joke about there's some kind of chat that comes through on your phone. Yeah, very, very interesting. We will talk about that more as the conversation goes along. But before we go into the world of everything that you're doing, I want to give you some really short questions, and I just want you to finish off the endings of the questions for me. Very simple. Just get to know you a little bit better. So to start off with, in 2022, I didn't know that. What didn't you know in 2022?
I mean, I think I get what you're asking for, and I think I'll address the meta topic of continuous learning. I think anybody who's listening to this, is your organization, or are you personally centered around an infinite learning loop, and is your organization a learning organization? So if you're struggling to answer that question specifically, so when you say I have a little bit too much information overload, because the amount of things that we learned in 2022 makes it's greater than the sum of all the knowledge we had the previous 6 years. Because it's not only that we're learning in one calendar year cycle, it's we put mechanisms in place for rapid adoption of knowledge. To say, like, we're better learners in 2022 than we were in the previous 6 years. In 2023, we're going to learn more than we did in 2022. So you want like an infinite learning loop, and you want an exponential way of consuming information, consuming data. Now, again, what does that word salad mean? It means that as an organization, so what are you doing to learn how to learn? And that's beyond an LMS, that's beyond coaching sessions, lunch and learns, daily call coaching with sales team, product trainings. It means fundamentally, how well do you know the product you solve in the market? And what are you doing to get the customer stories into your CRM in such a manner that every salesperson can say, I don't have to go ask marketing for, can I get 2-3 customer referrals because I'm being asked by this customer, can you endorse me? We actually have 1,500 business cases built into our CRM. And I can quickly find, based on this customer profile, I can quickly go down and find out, all right, these are exactly the problems we solve for these customers in their own words. So that's one type of learning. So the biggest thing I learned, again, in 2022 really was that I didn't know is how to scale these learning systems when you're part now like of a 6,000 person company, which we are with again, joining Quadient. Or we double the size of the Beadworks team or Quadient AP team in that period of time, relatively short period of time to add all that headcount. So learning how to learn is what we learned in 2022. My answer brought to you by the letter L.
Very nice. I mean, I can imagine quite a lot to take in 1 year, especially from the learnings of COVID from the years before as well. So quite a lot in 1 year. You're saying about 2023 being another year of learning. How are you and the team going to cope with this kind of never-ending like never-ending flow of information. How is it possible to work with that, not forget everything that you've learned, and bring it forwards and build upon what you've done? What kind of processes have you got in place for learning?
So, for example, when like some people are really connected into the emerging cool technologies and its applications. Other people have been shouting about for years. So probably what I'm getting at now is like, look at ChatGPT. Nobody really believed in natural language, predictive text AIs, and then all of a sudden ChatGPT starts writing your high school students' essays. Your kid comes over, hey, I just wrote a great essay on Shakespeare. I go, come on, you're dumb. You're my kid. You're not that smart. What's going on here? And so we all learned that, oh my God, this thing is real. This is what everybody's been telling us about. So if your organization wasn't built to embrace the unknown, then you're scrambling to say, how do we make this work? But if you had like an R&D department, for example, I'm going to speak a little bit more about my expertise, which is marketing, sales, customer success, as well as, leadership and the ethics of the boardroom and the organization side of the boardroom and steering a company strategically. So I'm not an engineer focused leader, but I know a little bit about it. And one thing that we did is, for example, we have an R&D mindset in sales. We have an R&D mindset in marketing. So when we're working with engineering and product, it's not an alien language to come up, say, imagine the scenario where your CEO walks in and bangs the table and says, hey, this ChatGPT thing is going to change the world. Engineering product, what are we doing about this? Right? I mean, that is the most asinine thing you can do to your engineering team, because, or we've all has happened where your boss sends you like an article on LinkedIn, go, hey, we should be doing this. And you're like, oh my God, no, that's a dumb idea. The guy just said it really well, right? Like, trust me, we thought about this. So the ability to say we're constantly experimenting with new ideas, and natural language was something that sales was talking about, getting feedback from the market 2 years ago. And product already was putting together sort of, product marketing was doing interviews with customers about, how would you like to interact instead of having a really crazy fancy dashboard and we tell you the information you need. Would it be easier for you to simply just in your own way say, oh, I'd like to see a report like this. Just again, voice to text, and you tell her, and our software gives you that information. So instead of doing these crazy dashboards, maybe we should pause on that and have a little bit more of a two-way communication with the way you interact with our software. And that's something we've been talking about for 2 years. So all of a sudden, when, because we have an R&D mindset, even though we have our stable products, we have high-level vision, because we always carve out a little room for innovation, and we know how to consume information. And we also try to say, look, is this signal, is this noise? There's a lot of noise out there. Is it just a fad? Is it something that beneath the surface, it doesn't really work? Is it going to be like a couple of years ago, if you're ever fundraising, all you had to do was say, blockchain, crypto, AI, distributed ledger, Coinbase, staking. Oh my God, here's take my money. Is it one of those things? Or do you actually know what you're talking about? So we built R&D as a foundation of our culture. So now when, things like ChatGPT comes in 2023, which really nobody was talking about in 2022, and now everybody's talking about it. As an organization, we're already poised to say, all right, these are the kind of things that we can quickly respond to, and also have in our own way leading, thinking about it for a while and experimenting with it, so that way we can take what's useful in collaboration with our customers and move forward. So anyways, just another example of, it's not one person who leads it. It's not a software that you have. It's not something you just invest in terms of, a department. It's fundamentally a mindset in the company. We say, do we have an experimental mindset? What do we do to what do we do to carve out time for R&D? And the real test is, how quickly can we add these things into our core offering that we want to add? Or is it like, oh, we're going to build this for the next 5 years, and by the time it comes out, it's already old?
I guess it's that kind of the ability to be able to pivot constantly and adjust the changes which just occur. Because as you're saying, in 2022, no one was talking about this. 2023 is all people are talking about so far. And if only I had it when I was at university, that would have helped out big time. Okay, interesting. I'm going to jump on something you said there a little bit later when we come down to challenges. But next question for you. When I started out, I believed, but now I don't. So right at the beginning of your career, when you started out, what did you believe, which now you don't?
When I started, I believed that people, like A players, are something that you go and you find, and you overspend, and you just bring in these rock stars, and they They're difficult to find, but they make a disproportionate impact. Now that is still true in the sense that, as we sound with Elon Musk, you can get rid of 85% of a company and it's running better than ever. Politics aside, more and more companies are doing that, where they realize that his rule that he was going, back at Tesla, and then he was talking to SpaceX. He says, forget the 80-20 rules, the 90-10 rule. It says 10% of your team will do the lifting of 90%. So try to build a team just around that 10%. So while it may sound like I'm contradicting myself, it is the case that people have a disproportionate impact, but it is not the case that those are just these artifacts out there in the wild that you unearth like Indiana Jones. In fact, we're all A players. We're all A players in the right environment. So yes, there's some table stakes and work ethic, table stakes along those lines. But fundamentally, if you create an organization that says, look, we bring in somebody, and if they have the core values that match who we are, then if they're not performing, it's not that, oh, well, get rid of them quick and then let's go and triple spend on these A players, because we've ingested A players. So something I believed, this person was amazing in the last job, their CV is immaculate, they're like the Michael Jordan of pick your department. We bring them in and they don't work well, they don't work out well. So fundamentally, I believe we're all A players. I believe that, again, all usual caveats and disclaimers aside, we're all A players. It's a question of, did we put this person in the right environment? And as long as they meet those core requirements. So what I'm specifically talking about is, for example, let's, dumb analogy, but let's say you're 7 feet tall, okay? And you bring that person in your organization, and instead of playing basketball, you tell them to be a jockey at this point. Now it's like, oh, this person's not really an A player, we misjudge them. No, you put them in an environment where all their strengths are now weaknesses. Rather try to figure out, all right, we can nurture, and then we can create an environment that nurtures people to be A players, but we have to be brutal in making absolutely certain that their job is calibrated to their skill sets, not what they think their skill set is on the outset, not where their managers simply let them flounder. So you have to have incredibly detailed people systems and incredibly, empathetic conversations with your team to realize you're not operating as an A player, and that's not okay. But rather than believe you're not an A player, which is what I used to believe, it's that we didn't put you in the environment where you're going to be an A player. And again, I'm going to be very careful with this. All usual caveats and disclaimers. Yes, the work ethic has to be there. Yes, the person has to have a certain amount of table stakes, drive and trouble table stakes, compatibility with your company values. But when that's the case, it's the company's fault when somebody is not thriving, because we didn't put them in the environment where they would thrive.
Okay, next question for you. What is the worst bit of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, the worst bit of advice ever, personally or professionally?
Professionally. Let's go professionally.
All right, we're gonna do an Oprah thing in a second here. Okay, fine. Professionally, worst bit of advice I was given. Well, again, everybody here was LinkedIn, or we scroll feeds and we hear people talking about things, and the so-called thought regurgitators. They regurgitate other people to be thought leaders. So thought regurgitators, right? And they just take some concept, and they're very good at presentation. So we kind of get wowed by the charisma of the person. We get wowed by some of the fancy word choices, some cool graphics in the background, a little bit of social proof that when you scratch the surface, it falls apart. So we've all been victim to that. We get a little bit hyped up about an idea. But I'll say the worst advice I was given, because we've all seen that, I think, hundreds of times. Worst advice was direct advice, in which, Karim, nobody's good at, like, everybody's only good at one thing. So this kind of seems like it contradicts what I said before, but just don't let people get distracted, right? Like, keep them focused on the work. So it was kind of a mercenary approach in my career. I was very lucky. I've had 4 exits, and one of my first exits, it was, again, so I'm not gonna say who, but the person had a very different mentality around how to extract value from people. And what it was almost like, this guy's a salesperson. Why are we investing in why this person, why do they want to invest their dollars in taking a project management course, right? This person should be making 200 phone calls a day. right? Like they want to do stuff on the evenings. That's their business. But, I don't want to hear about this. Or when we had certain meetings and they were like whiteboard meetings where we're talking about, again, creating a cool product. Well, that person doesn't need to be, or that, well, hold on. These people, like, they talk to the customers. They have a voice. No, Karim, they're not that smart. They're what we could afford, right? So this advice almost is that the team that gets you from A to B is not the team that gets from B to C. That is true in the sense that if you don't develop those talents along the way, absolutely, they won't be able to rise up to the challenge. And so keeping people hyper-focused on the value you bring to us from that A to B stage, not allowing people to really develop themselves. So that way, when the company does succeed, and now we're moving from a B stage to a C stage, that all these people, they didn't skill up, but that's on us. And the worst advice I ever got was, that's not just normal. That's natural. That is the most efficient way to run a company. Don't waste your time investing in people who are you're buying their labor for a certain brief period of time. And if you're going to do all these things where you're going to try to get them available for when we actually need them to do more or higher level work, no, we just hire new people at that point. And for some of the older people online like me, you may have been hearing this. The team that gets from A to B is not the team that gets from B to C at tech conferences, SaaS meetups, since the mid 2000s. That was a very common thing that was said. And God help us, that's something that was even said on stage. But I would just add, that is the worst goddamn, I'm sorry to lie, that's the worst advice you can give to people. What you say is, it's your job to make sure the team that's working hard and sacrificing gets you to B, that they can stay with you, that you have invested in them to get from B to C. And yes, it's a distraction. And yes, you're going to have to make more effort and time. And yes, you're going to have to mold them and say, look, you're amazing now, but the work's going to get only harder as we go on. What are we doing to make sure that when it gets harder, that you're building the resilient muscle memory so that a year from now, when this job is a lot harder, and ain't no thing, like you're ready for it. So anyways, that's probably the worst advice I ever got, but I think everybody got that advice as well.
I think it's so important. I mean, these are the guys that are bringing the company forwards as a collective. And if you show them the respect and the amount of time and money that you're willing to put into them, then people will give you more. It's like that kind of Richard Branson kind of idea that protects your people and they move with you. Tell me, as we're talking about the team a little bit, so when you started around, it was 2017, I believe, what's that now, about 4 or 5 years ago, when you started there, so there was around 20 people in the team. From what I could see from the video of last year, there was around 90 people in the team working for you. They may have increased slightly now. Tell me, what has been one pro and one con of a team expanding, the difficulties that come with that, or the possibilities that come with it?
Just so when I joined, we were in the teens. And then at the time of our acquisition by Quadient, I think we were just short of 100 people. And now at this particular business unit, so the Vancouver office, we're about 135, 140. The entire team is 6,000 people now. So international, and I think Quadient, we have offices in, I think, 33 countries, 77 offices worldwide, a big team. So
that was quite a big kind of jump in responsibility. I mean, on you at the beginning, then when you started the small team to obviously the team that is huge. What is what's the difference of the pro and con for that view, that 6,000 to now to the 20 teams before?
That's a tough one, right? Because you think to yourself, well, the obvious answer is you don't have those people connections, you have less time for people, you don't get to know them as well, but as you may have noticed, A, I talk a lot, and B, I don't try to say obvious things. So I'll go against the grain on this, and I'll say there really is no difference. It's just a problem of scale. It's a difference of magnitude. It's not a difference in kind. So when you're dealing with 10 people, you're dealing with 100 people, it's a linear progression of problems. And people say, no, it's exponential. Well, we'll think it through a little bit. You have 5 people that you manage, okay? And then in a 20-person company, maybe, there's a layer that those people have people that their team leads on, maybe not managers, but you're not directly doing the work of all these independent contributors. You're fundamentally working with leaders, and those leaders might be player coaches. In fact, at a 20-person company, everybody's a player coach. But I've got my day-to-day work that it does. Everybody's got the day-to-day work, and I'm still working with you on helping you be a better leader, and also helping you be a better player because you're doing both, and so on and so forth. The concept doesn't change.
Grim, give me three qualities of a salesperson who you personally would like in your team. Three qualities and why.
Are you aware of Mark Roberge's HubSpot theory on this?
Tell me.
Something that fascinating. Google. First of all, it's his whole thesis. He gave like a 2-hour talk at Google. You can easily YouTube it. But he's one of those. When we talked about learning at the very beginning of the video, he's something else that changed my mind. So you would think the thing of a great salesperson would be a good talker, can handle objections, confidence, or other people say it's very empathetic, able to get the customer psychology. Those are just skills, Fundamentally, he did a regressive analysis of 200 salespeople. So remember at HubSpot, he brought it from 0 revenue to 100 million revenue. So then he looked at like 200 salespeople and he did a regressive analysis of traits correlated with, does this person sometimes meet quota, often meet quota, always meet quota versus doesn't hardly ever and has never met quota. And he tracks those personality clusters on that analysis. And he finds that things like confidence or the ability to close or success of their past job are actually negatively correlated with consistent results. So when you think of a salesperson, that classical image in your head negatively correlates with people who are consistently hitting their targets. There's three traits. Yeah, the three traits that were not just correlated, but they were an order there was a specific mathematical term that it's like a headshot. It's a slam dunk. It is beyond question that if somebody scores high in these three traits, they're going to deliver the results consistently and be above target or at target consistently. And they were intelligence, curiosity, and coachability.
Intelligence is translated how though? In what kind of understanding?
Ability to pick up skills quickly, ability to be taught, curiosity, the self-desire to, I want to learn more, and coachability, the humility to learn. So fundamentally, it's learning. That's really what it is. Three different ways of learning. Are they intelligent? Are they curious? And are they coachable? Those people destroy no, I know what I've been selling for 10 years. Yeah, I'm not going to let my sales manager who's younger than me try to teach me this product. Listen, I know what I'm doing. Okay. Have you seen my car? It's a lease, but still, my car, go pound sand, buddy. Like those three characteristics. And by the way, that translates, I think, to every department.
Yeah, I was about to say, these three qualities, I would say that is a quality which you would want every single member of your team to have, to be honest, because it's that kind of flexibility. It's everything that you want in a somebody, basically.
Yeah, but the sales leaders listening in or on the recording, ask yourself, do you hire based on those qualities? Do you deliberately look for intelligence, coachability, and curiosity? What do you do to test for it? How do you measure it? And so if you don't do it deliberately, it's just oh yeah, sure, we believe in that. No, you have to actually build a whole hiring process around that. And then you're going to get a team, I think, that exceeds expectations consistently. Anyways.
Nice. Really nice. Okay. Tell me about, earlier you said about lots of innovation in 2022. Who were the people coming up with the innovation? When you mean this, is it like a specific team? Is it a specific person who's bringing that innovation to the team, or is it a collective?
So innovation, it would be like, if you remember maybe the 2014, 2015 customer success, the big talk started happening that it's not a department, it's a process, right? Customer success is not a function of a role, it's a function of an organizational mindset. And then the people who brought value in those talks are the ones who can actually show you how you inculcate that across your organization. I think R&D is the same way. So for example, like the quickest way to answer this is that we have some kind of like the idea of the year award. So it's an award that goes out to any employee for the best idea that got submitted and that we're able to execute throughout the year. And that could be an intern, or it could be all the way up to the CEO. It doesn't matter who it is, like who had the best idea, right? That's just like a fun way of gamifying and again, inculcating in the culture that we value ideas. But R&D, again, just like customer success, it really is, it's embedded at every step of your organization. So one thing we do at the department level is like, what is our 1% improvement? So every quarter, you need to find something that can improve our process by 1%. And again, you write it in a smart manner, like where were you before? Why do you think this will improve by 1%? How do we know that we got there, right? And then, okay, great, that's a 1% improvement. In doing so, like for example, if you make a 1% improvement at the very beginning of your supply chain, beginning of your funnel, it's a disproportionate impact down at the bottom, right? We all know, like if you're 1% off course when you leave New York, you don't end up in London, you end up in South Africa, right? So you want to make those 1% improvements as close to the point of thirst as possible, obviously. So there's a huge impact to the business. But what it also does is the 1% quarterly challenge by department, it forces you to ask questions about what do you know and what you don't know. How visible is data to you? Do you have an R&D mindset? Because if you're struggling to improve something by 1%, chances are you don't really know what's going on in your own department. You're just kind of following along with the established parameters. So you don't have an R&D mindset, right?
So 1 second there. So this 1%, how is that recorded? What kind of, how do you measure 1%?
So every department comes with that, and they have to present it and defend it. So if you were to say, again, we'll take the easiest one, like sales. It says, we want to improve the amount of views that we get for our content by 1% this quarter. So we know that we put out a lot of, like webinar invites. So what are we going to do that procedurally, without spending more money, like by doing something just different, it's going to improve what we do by 1%. So turns out, for example, like on our LinkedIn post, the salespeople, instead of just saying, come to this webinar, we actually do a 30-second pre-recording where the person's there and you're talking. So as you scroll through, and what that taught us is, wait a minute, content needs to be optimized, not just for the actual message itself, but it's got to be optimized for the native environment in which you display it. So LinkedIn has a certain way that if you display your information, people engage with it more. Same thing with Twitter, same thing with Facebook, same thing with Instagram. Our social media channels, you just can't take one piece and just disseminate that piece across all of them the same way. So in thinking of how do we just get 1% more views or engagement, on our social media content, again, I'm using a very simple example, that led us to the understanding that we were just cutting and pasting all of our engagements, all of our messages the same way, regardless what native platform it was on. In fact, what we should do is we should reshoot every single piece of content specific for the environment that is being promoted on. And that didn't just that gave us far more than 1%. So the 1% is just saying it's like an easy bar. It's saying if you can improve something by 1% every quarter, it means that we're really flying blind here. So it's a challenge. It's like, that's why it's called the 1% challenge. It's think of something that you can prove that you've improved, right? So it just can't be, well, we feel 1% better, and experiment and take a risk. And sometimes, it's a big nothing burger, but a lot of times you're like, even if we didn't get the result that we wanted, we learned so much more about our fundamental business in doing this exercise that we're grateful for the work that we did. We're grateful for the learning. So
I guess it's really, you're using that learning, you're implementing it as well, isn't it? Because you get so many companies, not so much anymore, but at least back in the past, you got so many companies having a fixed way of doing something, and they wouldn't change from that fixed way, which means that 1% is not able to go forwards, because if there's no change, there's no progress, there's no learning from it. Two more questions for you here. Tell me, what sets you apart? What sets you and your team apart from and everything you're doing from your competition? What is it that you've got the edge over the competition?
On a product level, we can talk about product differentiation, right? That's the easy part. So our customers use us versus customers use the competition. And, I'm a fan of what our competitors do. There's nothing that I would say that, you should avoid these guys. It's a question of right fit. So, but I would say objectively, on a feature by feature basis, there's a reason why, we're considered a darling product. We're in the, upper right-hand quadrant, of all the major, software analysis differentiators. Our customer reviews are amazing. So, but I think everybody has pride in their product. I think we're a little bit more deliberate. We're a little more scientific about it. So I'm not, I think that's the easy answer. I think fundamentally what we would say we do different is what I've kind of been my thesis or my through line for this whole conversation is, really trying to embrace the grind of learning. And that is evident in our product, but it's evident that's evident in our retention rates with our people, that's our employee engagement, our happiness surveys, and even when we screw things up, the grace that we get from our employees, to say that we know we're operating, on good faith. through, again, there's tough economic times right now. You're looking at all these layoffs all across the tech sectors. We've been relatively unaffected by that. So our employees really appreciate that. Well, that's what did you do different? So, well, I'd like to think that we embrace the humility of saying we don't know everything, and we try to inculcate that lack of knowledge into learning systems in our organization. We have very approachable leaders who take that servant leadership approach. I'm here to do, like, leadership really is two things. It's recognizing greatness and removing roadblocks. So all leaders try to do is remove roadblocks from the team and recognize the good work that they're doing and help them when they're not able to do that good work. So it's I'd love to give you that aha, like, kind of silver bullet answer, but it's just a bunch of lead bullets that accumulate into a great culture, into a place where people love to work, that people come with their best selves. But if it had to be a silver bullet, it would just be that, epistemic humility, that idea that we don't know everything, and that we want to create a culture that embraces the fact that we don't know everything. We try to get better, every month, every quarter.
Amazing. Karim, last question for you. In regards to entrepreneurship, I know you don't give cliche answers, and this is why I'm definitely going to put this one to you. Give me 2 of the best tips you can give to the listeners out there, which they need to take on if they want to be successful. 2 of the best tips for e-entrepreneurs.
Again, not the kind of typical thing that you hear, but it's slightly different, right? You're not entitled to anybody's money. So fundraising is a huge part of the entrepreneurial journey, right? Like, for example, if you were self-funding it, then that's a different entrepreneurial track, and that would be a very rare track that people are on. It's usually, I'm going to try to create a bit of product market fit, and then I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of C round, and after that, I'm going to do my Series A and whatnot, right? And one thing I've noticed, again, having had good luck in my life so far, having had 4 times where somebody valued the businesses that I was, whether a founder, founding employee on, and, giving you that market validation of here's a check because you created something of value, which is, then you did it, right? In the amount of times that we've had to raise money throughout those ventures. And then the companies I sit on the boards of, the company I'm an advisory member to, as well as an investor myself, there's a through line that I don't think people, you're successful when you don't feel entitled to the investor's dry powder. When you enter the organization, and it's not just because 1,000 other companies got funded, right? That's what they're like, well, this is the valuation. This is my company's worth the valuation. We're going to be worth this, we're worth that. What investors appreciate, whether it's institutional or private investors, is the fact that you know how to run your business without any outside capital. To say that I'm not saying that if somebody doesn't fund me, we die. And I don't feel you have to give me some money. It's just a question of coming to valuation. Like, there's an arrogance that I've noticed. And I'm pretty sure I had it too in my first 2 ventures, where we're just like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to raise this money. Then we're going to do Series A. Then let's get the right Series A, because we're going to be Series B feeder. And then once we raise 15 million, we had it all mapped out. And it's almost like saying, I'm going to be an all-star in my second year as a sophomore. And then I'm going to be MVP. And it's like, you put all these things in line, and like, there's no guarantee of that. And where's the work that you're putting into just building a great business? That if it was a great business, you wouldn't need a dollar, right? What you're so if you walk in and say, look, my business is trucking along fine. The only reason we're looking at money is because rather than take 10 years to get there, we can do it in 3 with a little bit of help. But we don't need you. You don't need us. So we're just seeing if we're good dance partners. Like, that's sort of belief in your business, and not like you owe me an investment, and I have to give this investment because it'd be so cool to go to cocktail parties and say, hey, look at my 20 million term sheet, like, get rid of that.
Can we help each other?
My business is good. I believe in it. And you know what? It might just be a life without outside financing. It'll be a lifestyle business up to the point where it's not. But I don't want it to be a lifestyle business. I think that I can learn from your expertise and a little bit of your capital. And here's what I can do on my own. And let's see if we can create something great quicker than something that will be great with or without you at some point. So I honor your money. Every dollar you give me, I will treasure it. I'm not going to waste it, but I will only use it to drive growth in something that already works. So a little bit of that humility, that build a great business first. and then only look at capital as a manner of saying
when you deserve it, I guess.
10 years will happen in 2 years, but I don't need your money to be successful, and I'm not entitled to it either. Anyway, so that counts both my answers, given the time it took to give me that.
Very nice. Karim, really, really nice. It's been amazing to speak to you today on Bright Founders Talk. Temy, thank you for giving us your time, and thank you for speaking with our audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.